The internet loves a story about a can't-miss prospect who fumbles right at the 1-yard line. For a while, it looked like that was going to be the story of Arissa LeBrock, daughter of action god Steven Seagal and supermodel icon Kelly LeBrock. You heard the whispers. A botched WWE debut, a failed tryout, a quiet disappearance. The hype around her famous name just sort of faded into a sad story of what could have been. But what if that whole story was just flat out wrong? What if the silence wasn't about failure, but about a brutal, career-threatening injury that almost killed her dream before it even started? This is the story of what really happened. It's a story about hitting rock bottom, a secret phone call from a wrestling legend that changed everything, and a comeback that has put the entire industry on notice. So forget what you think you know. Arissa LeBrock's real story is finally being told, and it's a masterclass in fighting back. To get where Arissa LeBrock is going, you have to understand the massive shadow she was born into. Her father is Steven Seagal. In the late 80s and 90s, he wasn't just an actor, he was a phenomenon. A legit 7th Dan black belt in Aikido, he exploded on screen with a style of martial arts that felt terrifyingly real, making him a top-tier action hero. Her mother, Kelly LeBrock, was the literal woman in red, the dream girl of the 80s, a supermodel who defined an entire era of style. She first stepped out on her own terms, not as an action hero, but as a plus-size model. In an industry known for its rigid standards, this was a bold statement. Her journey was even featured on the 2017 reality show Growing Up Supermodel, which showed her championing body positivity and fighting to be seen for who she was, not whose daughter she was. But away from the photo shoots, a different, grittier passion was taking root. Arissa started training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This was a discipline that was all hers, a world away from the choreographed fights in her dad's movies. It was real, it was grueling, and she earned every bit of it through sweat and mat burns. This combination, a model's commanding presence and a BJJ fighter's proven toughness, made her a perfect prospect for sports entertainment. And in December 2019, the call every aspiring wrestler dreams of finally came, an official tryout with WWE. The WWE Performance Center in Orlando is a dream factory, but it's also a meat grinder. The tryouts are notoriously brutal, multi-day events designed to push elite athletes to their breaking point. For Arissa, this was it. The golden ticket. She had the look, the lineage, and the legit combat sports background. This was her chance to prove to the biggest wrestling company in the world that she was more than a famous name. And then, just like that, it all fell apart. Disaster struck. While the exact details have been kept under wraps, the result was catastrophic. Arissa suffered a severe, career-altering injury. This wasn't a minor sprain. It was a devastating blow that brought her wrestling ambitions to a screeching halt. The dream was ripped away, not because she didn't have the talent, but because her body failed her. Since she wasn't officially signed, WWE never made a statement. As far as the world knew, she just vanished. That silence fueled a storm of internet rumors. People ran with wild speculation that she had a bad attitude, couldn't handle the pressure, or had been secretly blacklisted. The myth was born. Arissa LeBrock got her shot, blew it, and disappeared. The reality was so much more tragic. She wasn't banned. She was broken. The injury forced her into a long, difficult recovery, far from the spotlight. She later admitted this period took her to a terrifyingly dark place, saying, "I had become comfortable in the darkest, worst place in my life." For years, the story of Arissa LeBrock the wrestler was just another what if. In wrestling, the best stories are always about the comeback. While Arissa was in that dark place, her dream in ashes, her phone rang. On the other end of the line was a voice that understood struggle, a voice that knew the crushing weight of a famous last name, a voice that belonged to wrestling royalty, Dustin Rhodes. Dustin, the man the world knew for decades as the brilliant and bizarre Goldust, is a master of reinvention and a respected coach. As the son of the legendary American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, he knew all about fighting under a giant shadow. When Dustin reached out, he saw past the injury and the celebrity parents. He saw an athlete with untapped potential and a story that was nowhere near finished. He offered her a second chance, moved to Texas and train at his Rhodes Wrestling Academy. For Arissa, that call was the lifeline she desperately needed. It was the jolt that pulled her out of the darkness. She packed her bags and dedicated herself to rebuilding her dream from scratch. This wasn't a shortcut. It was the hard road. The Rhodes Wrestling Academy is an old-school proving ground. Under Dustin's mentorship, she didn't just heal, she transformed. She worked with trainers, honed her craft, and learned the psychology of the ring from one of the best minds in the business. Dustin himself praised her, saying, "She's doing a great job, but this is only the beginning for her. Pretty soon the whole world's going to be talking about Arissa LeBrock." This was the grind. This was her paying her dues. She was no longer just a BJJ practitioner. She was learning to become a complete professional wrestler, fusing her legit fighting skills with the art of sports entertainment. She was earning her spot, one painful bump at a time. After months of relentless training, her moment of truth finally came. In March 2023, Arissa LeBrock made her official in-ring debut. It wasn't on Raw or SmackDown. It was at a student showcase for the Rhodes Wrestling Academy in front of a small, passionate Texas crowd. The kind of crowd that gets what it takes just to step through those ropes. When she walked out, the transformation was undeniable. She wasn't a model or a celebrity's daughter. She was a survivor, a professional wrestler. She carried herself with a cold, focused intensity that was chillingly similar to her father's on-screen persona. The second the bell rang, it was clear this wasn't a gimmick. Reports from the showcase described her as brutally efficient. Her strikes landed with a thud that echoed through the building. She moved her opponents around the ring with an intelligent brute force. When the match hit the mat, her BJJ instincts kicked in as she fluidly turned wrestling holds into legitimate submission attempts, creating a real sense of danger. Observers were stunned, with some immediately comparing her dominant style to that of forces like Nia Jax. She won her debut, a handicap match, in dominant fashion. As she stood in the center of that ring with her arm raised, she wasn't Steven Seagal's daughter anymore. She was a wrestler who had clawed her way back from the absolute brink. That debut in a small Texas hall was the end of one chapter and the fiery start of another. It was a statement. She had beaten the injury, the self-doubt, and the darkness. She had finally stepped out of her parents' massive shadows and into the squared circle on her own terms. The journey from hyped prospect to injured flameout, and now to resilient pro wrestler, reached its shocking climax in 2025. After proving herself on the indies, the door to WWE didn't just reopen, she kicked it down. Arissa LeBrock made a stunning, unannounced debut on WWE television, shocking the world and instantly establishing herself as a dangerous new threat. The whispers of failure have been silenced, replaced by the roar of the crowd. The what-if story has become a what's next reality. She didn't take the easy road. She took the long road, the hard road, and that has made all the difference. Her path wasn't paved with gold. It was marked by a dream-crushing injury and a struggle that would have broken most people. She just refused to let her story end that way. Arissa LeBrock's rise isn't a question of if, but when. She has the pedigree, the look, the legit skills, and most importantly, the proven heart of a fighter who stared down failure and refused to quit. Her story isn't just a comeback. It shows what happens when you decide to fight back. And now, her era has truly begun. What do you think is next for Arissa LeBrock in WWE? Who should be her first major rival? Let us know down in the comments.